Welcome to the Explainer. So glad you're here. Look, if you're an FBISE Class 9 student staring down Chapter 9 on chemical equilibrium, you are in exactly the right spot. We all know chemistry can sometimes feel like, trying to decipher some ancient language, right? But today, we're going to translate it together. We're stripping away the fluff and focusing purely on helping you absolutely master this material. Seriously, by the end of this explainer, you're going to feel totally confident tackling these review questions. Okay, let's just get right into it. The exact Chapter 9 textbook review questions are what we're conquering today. We're looking at Question 2, Parts 1 through 4, Question 3, Question 4, and that think tank question. No wandering off into random topics, no skipping around and making things confusing. We're validating your exact study material and breaking it down step by step. You can literally just follow along with your book open.
So here's our game plan for today. 1. Forward versus reactions. 2. Defining chemical equilibrium. 3. Examples of reversible reactions. 4. Writing reversible chemical equations. And 5. Conditions affecting equilibrium. Let's do this.
Section 1. Forward versus reverse reactions.
Let's start right at the top of the homework with Question 2, Part 1, differentiating between forward and reverse reactions. Now, the forward reaction is the chemistry you're probably most used to. You take your starting materials, your reactants, you mix them together, and they react to form something brand new, the products. It goes strictly in one direction. But then we have the reverse reaction. And honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is the forward reaction just playing in rewind. The products you just made basically decide they aren't quite happy, so they react with each other and turn right back into the original reactants. This crazy back and forth dance, it's literally the foundation for everything we're talking about today.
Section 2. Defining chemical equilibrium.
That brings us to Question 2, Part 2. What actually is chemical equilibrium? Well, it's this highly specific state where the rate of the forward reaction and the rate of the reverse reaction perfectly match. Imagine you're walking up a down escalator. If you walk up the stairs at the exact same speed that the escalator is moving down, you're going to look like you're standing perfectly still to anyone watching. You haven't stopped walking, and the escalator definitely hasn't stopped moving, but your rates match perfectly. So, zero net change. That is chemical equilibrium. The reactions haven't stopped at all. They're just happening at the exact same speed in opposite directions, creating this beautiful dynamic balance. Section 3. Examples of reversible reactions. So, Question 2, Part 3 asks for two chemical equations of reversible reactions. And as a savvy student, you might have noticed a little cheat code if you look ahead in the chapter. We can actually use the later questions on the page as our perfect, practical examples. Work smarter, not harder, right? For our first example, we just look at Question 3, carbon monoxide and hydrogen reacting to form methane and water. Since this reaction can go both ways, boom, perfect example. For our second one, let's pull straight from the think tank question, bromine chloride decomposing into chlorine and bromine. These are two completely valid, textbook-approved examples that satisfy the homework requirement perfectly.
Section 4. Writing reversible chemical equations.
Now we're moving into the application phase. We've got our definitions, we've got our examples, so let's tackle Question 3 directly. The prompt is, coal reacts with hot steam to form CO and H2, which react further to give methane and water vapor. Write the forward and reverse reactions for it. We're dealing with an overall setup where carbon monoxide gas reacts with 3 molecules of hydrogen gas to form methane and water vapor. The really crucial point here is figuring out how to break down this single equation into its two separate directional parts.
To write the forward reaction, it's pretty straightforward. You just take the starting materials, the carbon monoxide and hydrogen, draw a normal, single arrow pointing forward, and write out the methane and water products. Just standard, one-way chemistry. But for the reverse reaction, you literally flip the script. You take the products, the methane and water, make them your starting materials, draw a single arrow pointing forward again, and write the carbon monoxide and hydrogen as your end result. By just isolating the two halves and changing the arrow to a single direction, you've perfectly answered Question 3.
All right, let's step it up a notch and challenge ourselves with the think tank question. This one is entirely word-based. Quote, bromine chloride decomposes to form chlorine and bromine. Write the reversible chemical reaction. Okay, so this time, the textbook isn't handing you the symbols. You have to pull from your own chemistry toolkit to write out the full reversible format based strictly on this text prompt. And here's the solution. Bromine chloride is BrCl. Chlorine gas naturally exists as a diatomic molecule, right? So that's Cl2. and bromine is Br2. But the absolute star of the show here is the symbol right in the middle. To show this is a reversible chemical reaction, we don't just use a normal arrow. No way. We use the double equilibrium arrow. One half arrow pointing forward, one half arrow pointing back. This shows both directions are active simultaneously. Oh, and remember, good chemists always balance their equations so both sides have equal atoms. That's why we need that 2 in front of the BrCl.
Section 5. Conditions affecting equilibrium. We are on the home stretch now, guys. Question 2, Part 4 asks us to write down the conditions for equilibrium. We know what equilibrium is, but what specific conditions are required to maintain this super delicate chemical balance? Because honestly, equilibrium is fragile. For it to even exist, 2 main rules have to be followed. First, it absolutely requires a closed system. Think of a sealed glass jar. If you leave the jar open, gases just float away, products escape, and the reverse reaction simply cannot happen because the ingredients are literally gone. Second, you must have constant external conditions. Temperature, pressure, volume, none of these can change. A completely stable, sealed environment is just mandatory for this magical balance of rates to survive.
Which brings us to the perfect follow-up. Question 4. How does temperature affect cobalt chloride equilibrium? The textbook uses cobalt chloride as a prime example here because it's super visual. It actually changes color depending on which way the reaction is leaning. So what happens to our delicate balance when we explicitly break one of those rules we just talked about and change the temperature? Well, it disrupts the whole shebang. A shift in external conditions, like a sudden change in temperature, acts as a huge stressor on the system. Because chemical equilibrium requires constant conditions, applying heat, or taking it away, totally breaks the balance. The system just isn't balanced anymore. It's basically forced to favor either the forward direction or the reverse direction to try and compensate for that new temperature. In the case of cobalt chloride, heating it up pushes the reaction one way, turning it blue, while cooling it down pushes it the other way, turning it pink. Changing the temperature fundamentally shifts the equilibrium point.
And that leads me to leave you with this final thought. We just learned that manipulating conditions like temperature breaks the balance and shifts the reaction, right? So if you were a chemist running a massive industrial factory, how might you intentionally use temperature or pressure to deliberately force a reversible reaction to pump out tons of the specific product you're trying to sell? Understanding how to control equilibrium isn't just some textbook exercise for Class 9. It is the multi-billion-dollar secret behind manufacturing everything from fertilizers to pharmaceuticals in the real world. It's definitely something to think about as you study. Thanks for hanging out with me on The Explainer today, and keep asking those great questions.